How many times have you felt anger build inside you, slowly tightening your chest and stealing your peace? How often has frustration ruined your mood for hours, even days, leaving your mind racing and your body tense? Most people live like this without realizing what it's costing them. Every time you let anger control you, you give away your power. Anger often feels justified. The world feels unfair. People are rude. Things don't go the way you planned. And in those moments, it feels natural to react. But the Stoics understood something very important, something most people forget. It is not the world that disturbs us. It is not events themselves. It is how we choose to respond to them. Think about this for a moment. When something goes wrong, you immediately create a story in your mind. You label the situation as bad, unfair, or disrespectful. That story is what creates the emotional pain. Without realizing it, you allow your emotions to take control, and when that happens, you are no longer free. You are reacting instead of choosing. The Stoics believed that a person who is ruled by their emotions is living like a slave to anger, a slave to frustration, a slave to circumstances they cannot control. But what if you didn't have to live that way? What if peace was always available to you, no matter what life throws at you? Stoicism offers a different way to live. It teaches us how to stop reacting automatically and start mastering our own minds. And it all begins with one simple rule. Separate what happened from what you think it means. Imagine you are driving, and someone suddenly cuts you off in traffic. Instantly, your body reacts. Your heart rate rises. Your jaw tightens. Anger appears. But pause for a second and ask yourself an important question. What actually made you angry? Was it the car changing lanes? Or was it the meaning you gave to that action? The event itself was simple. Car moved in front of you. That's all. But your mind added a story. You may have told yourself they were disrespecting you, that they were careless, that they were trying to dominate or insult you. None of those thoughts are facts. They are interpretations. The Stoics believed that events themselves are neutral. They are neither good nor bad. They simply happen. It is our judgment that gives them emotional power. The same event can be experienced in completely different ways by different people. One person gets angry, another shrugs and moves on. The difference is not the event, it's the mindset. When you understand this, something powerful happens. You realize that your peace does not depend on external events. It depends on your inner response. You regain control. You stop letting small moments steal your energy and ruin your day. This is where true freedom begins. When you stop attaching automatic meaning to everything that happens, you stop suffering unnecessarily. You learn to observe situations without being consumed by them. You learn to respond calmly instead of reacting emotionally. Choosing peace does not mean ignoring reality or pretending problems don't exist. It means seeing things clearly, without exaggeration, without emotional distortion. It means understanding that you always have a choice, how you think, how you react, and how much power you give to the outside world. Your growth starts with a single decision. The decision to stop being controlled by your emotions and start mastering them. The decision to become the guardian of your own peace. And once you make that choice, everything begins to change. What if the car cutting you off was simply that, a car changing lanes? No insult, no attack, no personal message aimed at you, just a moment in traffic. What would happen if you decided not to take it personally? What if you chose to believe that this small event did not deserve your peace? This idea sits at the heart of Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius wrote that when we are disturbed by something outside of us, the pain does not come from the thing itself, but from the judgment we place upon it. And most importantly, he reminds us that this judgment is something we have the power to take back at any moment. The world around us is constantly moving. People act without thinking. Delays happen. Plans fall apart. If our peace depended on controlling all of that, we would never find rest. The Stoics understood that inner peace is not created by changing the world, but by changing our relationship with it. The car cutting you off does not need to create frustration. It is a neutral event. The frustration appears only when you decide what it means. You tell yourself a story, that it was disrespectful, careless, or unfair. That story is what creates the emotional reaction. The event itself is silent. Stoicism asks us to slow down in moments like these. Before reacting, pause. Take a step back and observe what is happening inside your mind. Ask yourself why you feel the way you do. This pause is the most important part, because it creates space between the event and your reaction. This is not about pretending you don't feel angry or pushing emotions away. The Stoics were not interested in emotional denial. They were interested in emotional understanding. They believed emotions are signals, not commands. Just because you feel something does not mean it is automatically justified or true. The next time you feel anger rising, try this simple practice. Pause. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. Then ask yourself one honest question. Am I upset because of what actually happened, or because of the meaning I gave it? That question alone can change everything. That pause acts like a reset button. Instead of being swept away by emotion, you regain control. You move from reacting automatically to responding thoughtfully. You become aware instead of impulsive. Think of it this way. Imagine walking through life carrying a heavy backpack. Inside it are your thoughts, judgments, and emotional reactions. Every small frustration adds weight. Every insult you replay, every delay you hold on to. Over time, the backpack becomes heavier and heavier. Eventually, even small problems feel overwhelming. But what if you didn't need to carry all of that? What if you could set some of it down? The Stoics teach that the weight does not come from events themselves, but from the meaning we attach to them. When you learn to detach from unnecessary judgments, you lighten the load. You free yourself from the burden of frustration. You do not need to carry every insult with you. You do not need to relive every inconvenience. You do not need to give your energy to things that do not serve you. You can choose to let them pass. Every moment of frustration is an opportunity to practice letting go. When you catch yourself attaching a harmful story to a situation, you can stop, reframe it, and allow it to move through you without leaving a mark. The Stoics were not trying to eliminate emotions. They were teaching mastery over them. They showed us that peace is not found in a perfect world, but in a disciplined and aware mind. And that mastery begins with one simple habit: pausing, questioning, and choosing a better response. The Stoics believed deeply in one simple truth. We cannot control what happens to us, but we can always control how we respond. This understanding changes everything. It reminds us that anger does not come from the world itself, but from the way we interpret the world. When something happens, an event by itself is powerless. It becomes painful only when we add a judgment to it. By learning to separate the event from the meaning we give it, we take our power back. We stop reacting from emotion and begin responding from calm awareness. Imagine someone cutting you off in traffic. The mind quickly rushes to judgment. You assume they are rude, careless, or disrespectful. But what if that story is wrong? What if they are rushing to the hospital? What if they didn't see you at all? The truth is, you don't know. And because you don't know, there is no reason to choose the interpretation that causes you pain. Their actions do not harm you unless you decide to attach meaning to them. This is where peace lives. Not in controlling what others do, but in choosing how you respond to what they do. When you understand this, you stop feeling like a victim of your circumstances. You stop being controlled by every comment, every delay, every careless moment. Instead, you become the master of your mind. You realize that your peace is your responsibility. You begin to see that you are the one who decides whether a small frustration becomes a full storm of anger, or whether it passes like a cloud in the sky. When you adopt this mindset, life starts to feel lighter. External events lose their grip on you. You feel grounded, steady, and clear. Stoicism does not promise a life without emotion. You will still feel anger. You will still experience frustration, sadness, and disappointment. These emotions are part of being human. What Stoicism teaches is that you do not have to be controlled by them. You may feel frustration rising, but you can also recognize that it is not the situation causing it. It is your interpretation. When you catch yourself in the middle of an emotional reaction, you can pause, you can breathe, and you can ask a simple but powerful question. Am I upset because of what happened, or because of what I think it means. With practice, something begins to shift. The situations that once threw you off balance lose their power. The frustration that once overwhelmed you becomes a passing wave. The anger that once consumed you now moves through you without leaving a trace. You learn to separate what happens from what you think it means. And in doing so, you reclaim your peace. This is not about forcing yourself to feel calm or pretending everything is fine. It is about understanding that you always have a choice. Every moment gives you the opportunity to choose how you respond. The next time you feel anger or frustration rising, remember this rule. Pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself what meaning you are giving this moment. If that meaning is not helpful, change the story. Separate the event from the judgment, and you will find that peace is always within reach. Your peace is never outside of you. It has always been yours to choose. Now comes the second Stoic rule. Expect imperfection in people. Let's be honest. People can be rude, selfish, careless, and inconsiderate. Someone cuts in line. A friend breaks a promise. A stranger snaps at you for no reason at all. These moments are part of daily life, and yet we are often shocked and upset when they happen. But what if the real problem is not that people are flawed, but that we expect them to be perfect? Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. Each morning, he reminded himself that the people he would meet that day would likely be difficult. He expected them to be selfish, thoughtless, and unaware of how their actions affected others. He did not expect kindness or fairness. He prepared for imperfection. Because of this mental preparation, their behavior did not surprise him. And because it didn't surprise him, it didn't disturb his peace. Think about how often frustration comes from unmet expectations. You expected someone to be polite. You expected understanding. You expected respect. When those expectations are not met, anger appears. Stoicism teaches us to adjust our expectations to reality. People are human. They act from ignorance, fear, and habit. When you accept this, their behavior loses its power over you. Expecting imperfection is not about excusing bad behavior. It is about protecting your peace. When you stop expecting people to be flawless, you stop being constantly disappointed. You move through life calmer, steadier, and less reactive. You are no longer shocked by human behavior. You are prepared for it. And when you combine these two rules, separating events from judgments and expecting imperfection in people, you create a powerful foundation for inner peace. You stop giving your emotional power away. You stop living at the mercy of the world. And you begin living from a place of strength, clarity, and calm. When people don't meet your expectations, it hurts. And that hurt often turns into anger or frustration. This is the trap of expecting others to be flawless. When we expect perfection from human beings, disappointment becomes unavoidable. People will forget. They will act selfishly. They will say the wrong thing. When we hold them to an impossible standard, we set ourselves up to suffer. But when we shift our mindset and expect imperfection, something powerful happens. We free ourselves from unnecessary frustration. Here is a small change that can make a big difference in your peace of mind. Every morning, remind yourself of this simple truth. I will meet people today who are imperfect, and that's okay. This small adjustment completely changes how you move through the day. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you are less likely to feel attacked. When a colleague is rude, you don't carry it with you for hours. When a friend forgets an important commitment, you don't immediately take it as a personal betrayal. Instead of reacting with anger, you pause and say to yourself, this is part of life. People are flawed. This moment does not define me. When you accept human imperfection, you begin to practice compassion naturally. Instead of assuming bad intentions, you understand that everyone is dealing with their own struggles, stress, and limitations. When someone is rude, it is often a reflection of their inner state, not an attack on you. By letting go of the expectation that others should always behave perfectly, you stop taking their mistakes personally. It is no longer about you versus them. It becomes about accepting that we all fall short sometimes, and that this is part of being human. This mindset does not mean you excuse bad behavior. It does not mean you allow people to disrespect you or cross your boundaries. It simply means you refuse to let their flaws control your emotional state. This idea is deeply connected to the Stoic principle of inner control. The Stoics believed that true peace does not come from managing the world or other people. It comes from managing your own reactions. You cannot force people to behave the way you want, but you can always choose how you respond. When you expect imperfection, you give yourself the freedom to remain calm regardless of what others do. The key here is detachment, detaching your emotional well-being from the actions of others. When someone is rude or inconsiderate, you don't have to absorb their negativity. You can recognize it for what it is, a reflection of their state of mind, not a personal attack on you. Imagine how different your day would feel if you stopped taking other people's mistakes personally. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you simply move on. A coworker snaps at you, and you let it go instead of replaying it in your head. This is the power of preparing for imperfection. It allows you to move through life with greater ease. You stop getting tangled in the mistakes of others. You focus instead on protecting your own peace of mind. And here is the most profound part of this rule. When you stop expecting perfection from others, you also stop demanding perfection from yourself. We are all human. We all make mistakes. When you accept flaws in others, you naturally extend that same understanding to yourself. You stop being so harsh. You stop punishing yourself for every misstep. You allow yourself to learn, grow, and move forward. In a world that constantly pushes unrealistic expectations, choosing to expect imperfection feels almost radical. But in truth, it is deeply freeing. It releases you from anger, resentment, and self-criticism. It opens the door to peace, compassion, and emotional strength. This is the quiet power of Stoicism. Not controlling others, not forcing calm, but choosing understanding, acceptance, and inner stability, no matter what life places in your path. When you stop expecting perfection from others, something powerful happens. You free yourself from the constant disappointment of unmet expectations. You stop measuring people against an impossible standard, and you begin to accept the world as it truly is, messy, unpredictable, and imperfect. This does not mean tolerating disrespect or allowing others to take advantage of you. It simply means that you no longer allow their imperfections to steal your peace. You recognize that their flaws do not have to become your emotional burden. The next time you feel frustrated by someone's behavior, pause for a moment. Remind yourself that people are imperfect, and that's okay. When you do this, you'll notice an immediate shift. The situation won't feel as heavy. The anger won't rise as quickly. By adjusting your expectations, you become less triggered and more at peace. This is the beauty of Stoic wisdom. We do not try to control the world around us. We change how we respond to it. And by doing so, we reclaim control over our peace, our energy, and our happiness. The next time someone frustrates you, try this. Take a deep breath. Let go of the expectation that they should be perfect. Respond calmly. Let their flaws remain just that, flaws. They do not have to become your problem. This simple shift in mindset can completely change how you experience life. You become steadier, calmer, more grounded, unshakable in your peace. Now we move to Rule 3, master the voice in your head. You know that voice, the one that keeps replaying situations long after they're over. The voice that takes a small comment or a brief moment and turns it into a full story that slowly eats away at your peace. We've all experienced this. Someone says something thoughtless, maybe a comment at work, maybe a remark from a stranger. First, it's small, but then the mind grabs onto it. You replay it again and again. You imagine what you should have said. You relive the frustration, and before you realize it, you're caught in a spiral. But what if you didn't have to listen to that voice? What if you could actually control it? The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that our thoughts shape our experience of reality. It is not what happens to us that matters most, but how we interpret it. Epictetus said that people are not disturbed by things themselves, but by the views they take of them. That idea changes everything. The event itself is neutral. The disturbance comes from the story we tell ourselves about it. Think about an insult. Someone says something rude or dismissive. If you let the first angry thought take hold, it grows. One thought becomes another. Soon your body reacts. Tight chest, racing heart, rising resentment. But what if you stopped the story before it started? This is exactly what Stoicism teaches. The first step to inner peace is catching the initial thought. Don't let it spiral. When someone insults you, instead of taking it personally, pause. Remind yourself, this is their opinion, not my truth. Simple but incredibly powerful. When you replace a story of anger with a story of detachment, the insult loses its power. It's no longer about what they said. It becomes about how you choose to interpret it. By controlling that first reaction, you take your peace back. We all have an inner dialogue that runs constantly. Tells us how to feel, how to respond, and how to see the world. Most of the time, this voice is on autopilot. It pulls us into emotional reactions without us even realizing it. The Stoics had a different approach. They knew that the first thought that appears in the mind is not always the wisest or most peaceful one. It is often impulsive, emotional, and exaggerated. Stoic practice is about catching that thought before it runs away with you. The next time something triggers you, an insult, an inconvenience, something not going your way, pause. Listen to the first thought. It might say, "How dare they treat me like that?" Or, "This is so unfair." That moment is where your power lives. Instead of following that thought, replace it with something stronger and more grounded. Tell yourself, I am in control of how I feel, not them. The Stoics were not trying to ignore emotions. They were choosing how to respond to them. And that is a skill anyone can learn. The truth is, you do not have to be controlled by your thoughts. You don't need to suppress them or pretend they don't exist. You only need to recognize that you have a choice. Thoughts arise automatically, but whether you follow them is up to you. When that first angry thought appears, you can redirect it. When someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of reacting with anger, you can think, they're in a hurry. This doesn't affect my day unless I allow it to. It's a small shift, but it makes all the difference. And when you practice this consistently, you begin to experience a deep sense of control. Not over the world, but over yourself. And that is where true peace begins. Once you've learned to catch that first emotional thought and replace it with something calmer, there is another important step. You must change how you talk to yourself. Most of us are far harsher with ourselves than we would ever be with a friend. When anger, frustration, or jealousy arises, we immediately judge ourselves. We think, why am I feeling like this? Or, I should be better than this. That inner criticism only adds fuel to the fire. But what if you spoke to yourself like a wise guide instead of an enemy? When anger shows up, don't call yourself weak. Don't shame yourself for feeling what you feel. Instead, slow down and ask a better question. Ask, is this anger helping me right now? Ask, what can I learn from this feeling? This is not about ignoring emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about guiding yourself through the emotion instead of being overwhelmed by it. When you take this approach, your inner dialogue begins to change. Instead of feeding the anger with negative self-talk, you lead yourself toward calm, clarity, and control. As you become more aware of your thoughts, you'll notice something important. Your emotions start to lose their grip on you. They still appear, but they no longer control your actions. This practice doesn't happen overnight. It takes patience. But the more you practice catching that first thought and guiding it, the more natural it becomes. You begin to understand a powerful truth. Your thoughts do not define you. You are not your first reaction. You are the one who chooses how to respond. This is the heart of Stoicism. It does not ask you to suppress your emotions. It teaches you how to lead them. One of the most important parts of this practice is learning not to let emotions dictate your actions. Think about how many times you've reacted in anger and later regretted it. How many times you said something you didn't mean or made a situation worse. The Stoic way is different. It teaches you to pause before acting, to recognize that the first thought is often emotional, not wise, and that you always have the power to replace it with something better. When you begin to control your inner dialogue, you begin to control your peace. You stop being a prisoner to emotions. You become the one in charge. Let's go even deeper. How often do we let our minds spiral into negativity? Someone insults us, and instead of letting it go, we replay it again and again. Each replay adds another layer of anger, another layer of hurt. The Stoics offered a powerful lesson here. You do not have to replay that story. You are not required to keep feeding it. When anger arises, you can pause and say, "This is not the story I want to tell myself." That pause changes everything. In that moment, you break the cycle. You stop adding fuel to the fire. You choose peace instead. The next time someone insults you or something goes wrong, catch that first thought. Take control. Don't let the anger grow unchecked. Replace it with something calmer and more grounded. Remind yourself that you always have a choice. When you do this consistently, you'll notice a shift. Your peace will no longer depend on external events. It will come from within, from mastery of your thoughts. And this is where true freedom lives. Mastering the voice in your head does not mean silencing it. It means guiding it. You are the one in control. When you master your inner dialogue, you master your peace. When you master your peace, you master your mind. From there, nothing can shake you. Now we move to Rule 4. Hit the pause button. Have you ever felt anger rising so fast that you wished you could stop it? That heat climbing up your chest and neck. That moment where you know you're about to react, and part of you wishes you wouldn't? Your heart starts racing. Your mind fills with thoughts of judgment, anger, or retaliation. In that moment, it feels like you've lost control, like your emotions are running the show. Everything inside you wants to react immediately. But what if you could take that control back? What if, instead of letting your emotions decide your actions, you could pause just for a moment and choose how to respond? This is where the Stoic practice of the pause comes in. The Stoics believed that true strength is not found in reacting quickly or forcefully. It is found in restraint, in the ability to step back before responding. Long before modern psychology, they understood that the space between an event and your reaction is where your power lives. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the horrors of the Holocaust, expressed this truth perfectly. He said that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space, we have the power to choose our response. In that choice lies our freedom. This idea is one of the most powerful lessons in Stoic wisdom. In that brief moment between what happens and how you react, you hold the key to your peace. But we live in a fast-moving world. Our impulses are constantly being triggered. A rude comment, a long delay, a stressful moment at work. These things can instantly send us into anger or frustration. Most of the time, the reaction is automatic. We don't even realize what's happening until we've already said something we regret. The Stoics remind us that we do not have to live this way. We are not slaves to our impulses. We have a choice. That choice exists in the pause Viktor Frankl described. When something triggers you, there is always a moment, even if it's very small, where you can decide how to respond. Think of it like a buffer between the outside world and your inner world. That buffer protects your peace. Instead of letting anger take over and push you into words or actions you'll regret, you can step back. You can choose calm. The next time you feel anger rising, try something simple. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. Sounds almost too easy, but it's incredibly powerful. In those 3 breaths, you create space. You interrupt the automatic reaction. You give your mind time to catch up to your emotions. You regain control. What's happening in that moment is profound. You're no longer letting emotions dictate your actions. You're choosing how to respond. You're taking your power back. Picture this. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your heart races. Your hands tighten on the steering wheel. Your mind prepares to react. But instead of reacting immediately, you pause. You breathe. You allow the frustration to rise and fall like a wave. You don't chase it. You don't feed it. And just like that, it passes. You are no longer a slave to your impulses. In that pause, you choose calm. You choose to remain steady and unshaken. It may seem like a small act, but it has the power to change your entire day. One reaction can shape hours of emotion. One pause can protect your peace. We often believe we must react immediately, that if we don't express our anger, it will build up or mean something about us. But the Stoics understood that not every emotion deserves an action. Anger does not need to be acted on to be understood. Frustration does not need expression to be released. Sometimes all it needs is space. The pause gives you that space. And the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Over time, that pause grows longer. Your reactions become calmer. Your responses become wiser. And your peace becomes harder to disturb. This is the quiet power of Stoicism. Not control over the world, but mastery over yourself. Many people believe that if they don't react immediately, their emotions will build up inside them. But the Stoics understood something deeper. Suppressing emotions is not the goal. Control is the goal. Stoicism is not about pretending you don't feel anger or frustration. It's about directing those emotions in a way that serves you rather than harms you. And this is exactly where the pause becomes powerful. When you hit the pause button, you give yourself space. Space to decide whether reacting is truly the best course of action. Space to choose how you want to engage with what you're feeling. This pause is not weakness. It is strength. It is wisdom in action. In a world that values quick reactions and emotional outbursts, choosing to pause is a conscious act of control. It is a decision to stay grounded, no matter what is happening around you. Think about how different your interactions could be if you practiced this pause. How many times have you said something in anger that you later regretted? How many relationships have been strained or damaged because of a reaction that lasted only a moment? The pause gives you a chance to think before you act. It gives you a moment to reflect and ask yourself an important question. Is this response worth my energy? Is this aligned with the person I want to be? In the heat of the moment, we often forget that we have this power. But we do. The pause is a moment of clarity. A moment where you step back from the emotion instead of being consumed by it. In practice, the pause is not just about breathing. It's about awareness. It's about noticing the tension in your body, the tightening in your chest, the urge to react, and realizing that you don't have to act on it. You have a choice. You have the freedom to decide whether this moment defines your mood, your day, or even your life. The pause helps break the cycle of automatic, reactive behavior, the kind that leads to regret. It allows you to ask, what is the wisest response here? And more often than not, the wisest response is calm, clarity, and peace. Here's where it gets interesting. The more you practice the pause, the easier it becomes. Just like building a muscle, it feels awkward at first. You may still react before you remember to pause. That's normal. But over time, as you consciously step back and breathe, the pause becomes natural. It becomes your default response. You no longer have to remind yourself to slow down. It happens automatically. You train yourself to respond instead of react. And that is where real power lives. This practice is not only for big emotional moments. It is just as useful in everyday frustrations. When the barista gets your order wrong, when someone interrupts you, when life feels rushed and overwhelming, these small moments are perfect opportunities to practice the pause. If you can master the pause in these situations, it becomes much easier to use it during bigger challenges. The pause does not mean avoiding conflict or ignoring emotions. It means giving yourself the space to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. When you choose to pause, you choose control. You choose to be calm in the middle of the storm instead of being swept away by it. This shift in mindset is powerful. It is life-changing. And it is something the Stoics practiced daily. They reminded themselves that while they could not control external events, they always had control over how they responded. And that truth still holds today. In that moment of pause, something powerful happens. You are not just changing how you react, you are shaping who you are becoming. Each time you choose calm over chaos, you strengthen your inner resilience. You train yourself to meet life with wisdom instead of impulse. This practice does more than protect your peace. It allows you to live with intention, with clarity, with purpose. So the next time you feel anger rising or frustration building, remember this. Hit the pause button. Breathe. Let the space between stimulus and response become the place where you reclaim your power. Because in that space you are free. And that freedom is where true strength lives. Now we move to Rule 5. Don't take things personally. We've all been there. Someone says something rude or hurtful. Your heart races. Your face flushes. Anger starts to bubble up. Your first instinct is to react, to defend yourself, to strike back with words that carry the same sting. It feels automatic, like the hurt demands a response. But what if someone else's words are not a reflection of who you are, but a reflection of who they are? Let's pause and consider that. When someone speaks badly about you, the pain you feel is not because their words are true. It's because you've allowed those words to enter your mind and affect your sense of self. Their words only have power if you give them meaning. Epictetus understood this deeply. He said that when someone speaks badly of you, remember that they do so because they believe it is right. This insight changes everything. The insult is not about you. It is about them. Their words come from their own beliefs, experiences, insecurities, and emotional state. When someone lashes out, what they are revealing is their own inner world, not your worth. People act based on what they believe, not on who you truly are. Their behavior reflects their mindset, their struggles, and their pain. So the next time someone insults you or says something hurtful, take a step back. Don't take it personally. Remind yourself that this behavior comes from their inner turmoil, not from your value as a person. We live in a world where everyone is fighting something. Everyone carries pain, fear, and insecurity in different forms. Often, people lash out not because of you, but because they are hurting themselves. When you understand this, something shifts. Their words lose their power. You stop absorbing their negativity. You see their comments for what they are, projections of their own emotions. This is where peace begins. You no longer feel the need to defend yourself against every insult. You don't need to carry their anger with you. You remain grounded, calm, and clear. This doesn't mean agreeing with what they say. It doesn't mean allowing bad behavior or disrespect. It simply means you refuse to let someone else's emotional state dictate yours. You keep your peace intact. By not taking things personally, you protect your energy. You stay rooted in who you are, not in how others see you. And that is a powerful place to live from. Not taking things personally simply means this: you refuse to let someone else's words define who you are. You stop giving their opinions the power to disturb your peace. When a hurtful comment comes your way, it's easy to get pulled into an emotional whirlwind. The mind starts spinning. You replay the words again and again, analyzing them, questioning yourself, giving them far more weight than they deserve. But when you choose not to take it personally, something changes. You pause. You reflect, and you choose how you want to respond. By doing this, you take back control of your emotional state. You stop being a pawn in someone else's emotional game. You realize that their words only have power if you allow them to live rent-free in your mind. Think about how much energy we waste carrying the hurt of other people's words. How often we replay an insult over and over, adding layers of meaning to it. When you stop taking things personally, you begin to see the situation clearly. You see it for what it is, someone else's perspective, not your truth. You don't have to wear their negativity. It belongs to them, not you. You have the choice to let it slide off you like water off a duck's back. And when you stop internalizing insults, you free yourself from their emotional grip. Here's a simple practice to help you apply this. When someone says something hurtful, before reacting, pause and ask yourself one question. What does this say about them? Not about me. This single question shifts everything. Instead of turning inward and doubting yourself, you turn outward with understanding. You recognize that their words likely come from fear, frustration, insecurity, or misunderstanding. They may be dealing with struggles you know nothing about. Their emotional state is influencing their behavior, but that does not mean you have to absorb it. You don't have to take it on. You don't have to let it shape how you see yourself. You can choose to see their words as a reflection of their inner world, not an attack on your character. When you adopt this mindset, something powerful happens. You stop letting others control your emotional state. Instead of being pulled into their drama, you remain calm, centered, and grounded. You become the observer of the situation rather than a participant in the emotional chaos. This ability to remain unshaken does not come from controlling other people. It comes from controlling your response to them. This is the practice the Stoics mastered. They didn't avoid emotions. They understood them. They knew that feelings like hurt, frustration, and anger would arise. But they also knew those feelings did not have to rule their actions. Stoicism does not teach emotional numbness. It teaches emotional leadership. You may still feel hurt by someone's words. That's human. But you can acknowledge the feeling without letting it dominate your mind. You can feel the emotion and then release it. The power of not taking things personally lies in this release. You let go of the hold others have over you. You stop allowing their words or actions to dictate how you feel. Instead of letting an insult ruin your day or make you question your worth, you stand firm in your own truth. You don't need validation from others to know who you are. Your sense of self is not built on their opinions. It is not shaken by their criticism. When you stop taking things personally, you start operating from a place of strength, place of clarity, place of inner peace. You move through the world grounded, aware, and unshaken, no longer controlled by the noise around you. When you stop taking things personally, you reclaim your emotional power and find peace that cannot be taken away by others. You begin to see the humanity in those around you. You understand that everyone has their own struggles, their own flaws, and that sometimes when people lash out, it's not about you. It's about their inability to manage their own emotions. This perspective changes how you interact with the world. Instead of reacting with anger, defensiveness, or resentment, you respond with empathy and understanding. That doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior or allow yourself to be mistreated. It simply means you choose to respond with grace rather than mirroring the negativity thrown at you. You choose not to let someone else's turmoil define your state of mind. In doing so, you become the master of your emotional world, grounded in peace and self-assurance. This is the kind of inner calm that Stoics sought, a peace that comes from within and is not dependent on what happens around you. Next time someone insults you or says something hurtful, remind yourself, this is about them, not you. Their words are a reflection of their struggles, fears, or misunderstandings, not a statement about your value. Pause, reflect, and release their negativity. Your peace is yours to protect, and no one can take it from you unless you allow them to. Now let's turn to another lesson the Stoics understood deeply. Anger is dangerous when held onto. Anger is like holding a hot coal in your hand. At first, it may feel manageable, small, and even justified. But the longer you hold onto it, the more it burns you. Anger doesn't punish the person who wronged you, it punishes you. It clouds your thoughts, disrupts your emotions, and steals your energy. The Stoics were clear. Holding on to anger is self-inflicted harm. And yet, it's so easy to cling to it. We often convince ourselves that nursing anger will make us feel justified, or that it will give us control over the situation. But in reality, the longer we hold it, the more it controls us. Think about a time when you were angry. Perhaps someone cut you off in traffic, or a colleague said something rude at work. How long did that anger last? Was it a few moments? Or did it drag on throughout your day? More often than not, the anger lingers, festers, and grows until it clouds your judgment and saps your energy. It turns small frustrations into heavy burdens. The Stoics recognized the destructive power of holding on to anger. They didn't just teach us to control it, they taught us to let it go quickly. The faster you release anger, the less damage it does to your peace of mind, your clarity, and your ability to act wisely. Anger, like a burning coal, only harms the one holding it. By letting it go, you preserve your energy, your focus, and your inner calm. So the next time you feel anger rising, pause. Take a breath. Remind yourself that holding onto this feeling will only harm you, not the other person. Decide to release it. Let it pass like smoke in the wind. This act of letting go is not weakness, it is strength. It is wisdom. It is freedom. By practicing this daily, by refusing to take things personally and letting go of anger quickly, you build a mind that is unshakable. You develop resilience, clarity, and a sense of peace that is independent of the chaos around you. This is the power of Stoic practice. Protecting your inner world, mastering your responses, and refusing to let the flames of anger and judgment burn you from within. Holding on to anger is not just harmful, it is completely unnecessary. Think about it for a moment. When you get angry at someone who cut you off in traffic, or when a colleague says something rude, does your anger make the situation better? Does it make the traffic move faster? Does it make the other person apologize? The answer is no. Anger does not change the situation. It only keeps you stuck in a cycle of negative energy. The longer you hold onto it, the heavier it feels. Your mind becomes clouded, your body tenses, and your energy drains. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. The Stoics understood that anger is a natural human reaction. It is not wrong to feel it. What matters is what you do with it. You have the ability to let it go, to release it, and in doing so, reclaim your peace. The key is awareness. When you notice yourself becoming angry, pause. Acknowledge it. Feel it fully for a moment, but don't hold on. Then make a conscious choice to let it go. This is not suppression, it is control. It is mastery over your own mind. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack all day. At first, it might seem manageable. You think you need it, or maybe you get used to it. But over time, it weighs you down. It slows your steps, tires your body, and distracts you from moving freely. Anger works the same way. At first, it feels justified. You might even think that holding on to it gives you power or validates your feelings. But in reality, it is a weight you carry unnecessarily. The longer you hold it, the heavier it becomes. The Stoics taught that the moment you let go of anger, you lighten your load. You regain your clarity, your focus, and your energy. You stop being controlled by the emotions of others and take back control over your own mind. This is the true freedom they spoke of. Not the ability to change the world around you, but the ability to manage your own inner world. Your peace does not depend on whether someone else behaves correctly. It depends on your willingness to release what does not serve you. Letting go is not always easy. Sometimes anger feels like it belongs to you, like it is part of your identity or your right to feel. But the more you practice, the easier it becomes. When frustration arises, remind yourself, holding on to this anger only harms me. I can feel it, acknowledge it, and then release it. You might imagine it as letting a heavy stone drop from your hands. The moment it leaves your grip, you feel lighter, freer, more at ease. This practice is not about denying your emotions or pretending nothing matters. It is about creating space between the stimulus and your response, between the event and your reaction. In that space, you regain choice. You are no longer a prisoner to your emotions. You are the master of them. By letting go of anger quickly, you protect your peace, your clarity, and your energy. You stop wasting mental and emotional power on things that cannot be changed. The Stoics reminded themselves of this every day. They didn't wait for anger to fade on its own. They actively chose to release it, to drop it, to reclaim their freedom. The wisdom is simple but profound. Holding on to anger is self-inflicted suffering, and letting go restores your inner balance. The sooner you let go, the sooner your peace returns. It is like lifting a weight from your shoulders, like opening a window in a stuffy room, like freeing a bird trapped in a cage. Your mind feels lighter, your body feels calmer, and your spirit feels stronger. So the next time anger rises, take a deep breath. Acknowledge it, feel it, and then let it go. Drop it like it's hot. You will notice immediately how your body relaxes, how your thoughts clear, and how your day becomes easier. Anger no longer controls you, you control it. This is the Stoic path to inner freedom, and it is available to you every moment, in every situation. It doesn't take time or permission. It only takes awareness and the courage to release what doesn't serve you. Letting go of anger is one of the hardest things to do, especially when we feel that anger is justified. We create stories in our minds that convince us we need to hold on, that we deserve to stay angry. Maybe someone hurt us, wronged us, or treated us unfairly, and our mind insists that this anger is necessary. It's our right. But here lies the paradox. The more we cling to anger, the more it owns us. The longer we hold it, the more it controls our thoughts, our body, our peace. Holding on to anger doesn't change the past. It doesn't punish the person who hurt you, nor does it make them realize their mistake. All it does is keep you stuck, trapped in a cycle of resentment and frustration. It's like carrying a burning coal in your hand. You think it's the other person who will get burned, but the only one who suffers is you. This is why the Stoics emphasized the importance of letting go quickly. Dropping anger is not a sign of weakness. It's a conscious, wise choice. It is the act of taking back control over your own mind and emotions. In practical terms, this requires mindfulness. When anger arises, first notice it. Don't judge yourself for feeling it. Simply acknowledge, I am angry. Then ask yourself, is holding on to this anger helping me? Is it serving me? Most of the time, the answer will be no. That's your signal to release it. The first few times, it might feel unnatural. It might feel like you are giving up something that belongs to you. But the more you practice, the easier it becomes. The Stoics didn't expect mastery overnight. They knew breaking a strong emotional habit takes time. Over time, you will notice a change. You won't need to hold on to anger the way you used to. You'll release it more quickly and naturally. With that release comes freedom, a sense of peace you may not have realized was possible while carrying anger. And here's a crucial point. When you cling to anger, you are letting someone else's behavior control your emotional state. You are giving them power over how you feel, and that is a form of self-sabotage. You cannot change the actions of others, but you can always change your response. When you let go of anger, you reclaim control. You stop being a prisoner of someone else's mistakes or behavior. The Stoics believed that true strength does not come from trying to control the world. It comes from mastering yourself. By releasing the burning coal of anger, you regain power over your emotional world. You stop letting external events dictate your mood and start living from a place of calm, clarity, and inner strength. Think about it. The person who hurt you might move on, forget the incident, or never even realize the impact of their actions. Yet you are the one carrying the burden. Holding on to anger only prolongs your suffering. By letting it go, you free yourself. You choose peace over resentment. You choose wisdom over reaction. You choose to live in control of your mind rather than under the rule of your emotions. This is the Stoic path to inner freedom. Every time anger arises, pause. Recognize it. Acknowledge it. Ask whether it serves you, and then let it go. In that simple act, you regain your power, your peace, and your life. Letting go of anger is not just a nice idea. It is a form of self-care. It is about protecting your peace of mind, your clarity, and your emotional well-being. When anger takes hold, it clouds your judgment, it weighs heavily on your thoughts, and it makes decisions harder. The Stoics understood this. They were not telling us to be passive when wronged, nor were they suggesting we ignore our emotions. Anger itself is natural, but its grip on us can prevent us from thinking clearly and acting wisely. Releasing it is a conscious choice. When you let go of anger, you create space. Space for calm, space for clarity, space for wisdom. You regain control over your mind instead of letting it be controlled by your emotions. Dropping anger doesn't mean you allow people to take advantage of you. It doesn't mean ignoring injustice or failing to stand up for yourself. On the contrary, it allows you to face challenges with clarity. You can set boundaries, confront issues, and act in alignment with your values, but without the heavy weight of anger clouding your thoughts. The moment you let go, you feel a sense of freedom. That tightness in your chest, the rush of heat in your body, the mental chatter, all of it starts to ease. You've reclaimed your power. You've chosen peace over reaction. And that, the Stoics would say, is true freedom. Now, let's take this lesson further. Life is full of obstacles. Traffic jams, long lines, missed opportunities, disagreements, arguments that seem to go nowhere. These are part of the daily human experience. They disrupt our plans, test our patience, and sometimes steal our peace. But what if these obstacles were not just annoyances? What if, instead of viewing them as problems, we saw them as teachers? The Stoics believed exactly this. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action." In simple terms, the things that get in our way are often the very things that push us forward. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you faced a setback and your first reaction was frustration or defeat? Maybe you were stuck in traffic, and every honk and every slow-moving car made your blood boil. Or perhaps a plan you worked hard on didn't go the way you hoped. It's natural to feel upset. But what if you could pause and see the lesson instead of the obstacle? That moment of irritation, that challenge, that inconvenience, it can teach patience, can teach resilience. It can show you where your mind gets caught up in things you cannot control. Every obstacle has a lesson. Every delay, every frustration, every challenge can help us grow stronger, wiser, and calmer. The Stoics would remind us, these things are part of life. They are not meant to break us. They are meant to build us. The challenges themselves are neutral. It's our interpretation that makes them frustrating or educational. When you shift your mindset to see problems as teachers, life changes. The next traffic jam becomes a lesson in patience. A delayed project becomes a chance to practice flexibility. A difficult conversation becomes an opportunity to practice empathy. Each obstacle is a teacher if we choose to learn from it. By practicing this mindset, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You stop letting life frustrate you unnecessarily. You meet life with a sense of purpose and calm, knowing that even challenges serve you. This is the essence of turning problems into teachers. It is the art of seeing value and opportunity in every difficulty. Over time, your mind becomes stronger, your emotions calmer, and your decisions wiser. You begin to flow through life with resilience, using setbacks not as reasons to despair but as opportunities to grow. The Stoics didn't promise a life without difficulties. They promised a way to meet them with wisdom, courage, and inner peace. Life is full of unexpected challenges. You might be on your way to an important meeting and get stuck in traffic. Or perhaps something at work goes completely off plan and throws your whole day into chaos. It's natural to feel frustrated in these moments. Our first instinct is often to focus on the inconvenience, the delay, or the things that went wrong. But what if we chose to look at these challenges differently? What if, instead of seeing obstacles as problems, we viewed them as teachers? Think about that traffic jam. At first, it might feel like a huge frustration. But what if it is teaching you patience? The argument with a colleague, though uncomfortable, might be teaching you how to communicate more clearly and calmly. That missed opportunity, that lost chance or failed plan, could be preparing you for something better, something that you weren't ready for yet. The obstacles themselves are not the enemy. They are part of the training. And that's exactly what the Stoics understood. The first step is awareness. When a challenge appears, notice it. Recognize it for what it is. A moment that tests your mind, your patience, and your character. It might be something small, like a slow driver in front of you. Or it might be larger, like a missed deadline or a conflict at work. Either way, the important thing is not the obstacle itself, but how you respond to it. Instead of reacting with frustration, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what is life teaching me in this moment? When you shift your focus from the problem to the lesson, you open yourself to growth. You stop letting the obstacle control your emotions. You turn frustration into an opportunity. This doesn't mean pretending the obstacle isn't there. Life still happens and challenges still exist. But you recognize that every challenge has something to teach you. Sometimes the lessons are simple. Maybe you learn patience. Maybe you learn how to stay calm when things don't go as planned. Other times, the lesson is deeper. You might realize something about yourself. How you can improve, how you can communicate more clearly, or how you can handle similar situations better next time. The Stoics taught that every challenge, big or small, is an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Imagine how life would feel if you stopped seeing obstacles as roadblocks. Think of all the moments you got frustrated in traffic, at work, or in relationships. What if, instead of letting these moments disturb your peace, you paused, reflected, and asked, what can I learn from this? Each setback becomes part of your personal growth. Each inconvenience becomes a lesson. Over time, this mindset changes the way you approach life. You stop resisting difficulties. You stop being controlled by frustration. You start seeing every obstacle as a chance to become a better version of yourself. This is the heart of Stoic wisdom. Life is unpredictable, messy, and full of challenges. But these challenges are not meant to defeat you, They are meant to train you, to shape your patience, your resilience, and your wisdom. The next time something disrupts your day, pause, breathe, look for the lesson hidden in the situation. Ask yourself, how can I grow from this? What is this experience teaching me? Over time, you will notice a shift. You will face life with more calm, more clarity, and more strength. Obstacles will no longer feel like enemies. They will feel like guides, pointing you toward growth, resilience, and mastery over your own mind. Think about all the times in your life when setbacks, frustrations, or unexpected problems have stolen your peace. Maybe it was a failed project, a missed opportunity, or a difficult conversation. At the time, those moments may have felt like disasters, moments where the world was against you. But now, imagine if you could see those same moments differently. Imagine if you could see them as stepping stones, as opportunities carefully disguised as obstacles. This is exactly how the Stoics approached life. They believed that life doesn't work against us. It works for us by offering challenges that help us grow into better versions of ourselves. Every obstacle, every difficulty, is not just something to endure. It's something that shapes us, that teaches us, and that strengthens us. Think about some of the hardest challenges you've faced. At the time, they may have felt overwhelming, like something you could never overcome. But now, looking back, how many of those moments actually became opportunities in disguise? Maybe you lost a job you loved, but that loss pushed you toward a career path you never would have discovered otherwise. Maybe a friendship ended, but it taught you something valuable about your own boundaries, about self-respect, and about the people you allow into your life. The obstacle you thought was holding you back was actually a teacher showing you a new path. The Stoics understood that life is full of events we cannot control. Traffic, delays, mistakes, disappointments. They are all part of existence. But while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. This mindset is not about passivity or giving up. It is about actively taking responsibility for your growth. When a challenge appears, you don't just sit there and wish it would go away. Instead, you lean into it. You ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? By taking this approach, the obstacle itself becomes a tool for personal development. Marcus Aurelius, a great Stoic philosopher, said, "The impediment to action advances action." In other words, what seems like a roadblock can actually push us forward. Every challenge tests us. It forces us to become more adaptable, more resilient, and more prepared for whatever comes next. Every setback, every difficulty, is an opportunity to level up, to grow beyond your current limitations, and to practice patience, wisdom, and strength. So what can we take from this? The next time something goes wrong, don't let frustration or disappointment take control. Instead, pause and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this challenge help me grow? By shifting your focus from the problem to the lesson, you transform obstacles into opportunities. You move beyond merely surviving the difficulties of life. You thrive because of them. Every obstacle becomes a stepping stone. Every difficulty becomes a teacher. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the creator of your own life. Each challenge shapes you, molds you, and prepares you for the next stage of your journey. The Stoics remind us that growth often comes from the very moments we wish we could avoid. Life is offering you constant lessons. The choice is whether to resist them or to embrace them. By embracing challenges and seeing them as teachers, you cultivate strength, wisdom, resilience, and peace. Obstacles are not your enemies. They are your allies in disguise. The more you practice this mindset, the more you will thrive, no matter what life throws your way. Challenges are not detours. They are the path itself. Imagine if you could start seeing obstacles not as threats but as teachers guiding you along your path. When you begin to see life's challenges this way, something remarkable happens. You stop fearing failure, you stop dreading setbacks, and you stop seeing difficult moments as disasters. Instead, you start seeing them as essential parts of your journey, steps that contribute to your growth, resilience, and wisdom. Every experience, even the most challenging one, is shaping you, preparing you for the person you are meant to become. Nothing in life is wasted. The losses, the frustrations, the unexpected twists and turns. They are all part of the training that strengthens you. When life throws a curveball, pause and remind yourself, this isn't a setback. It's a teacher in disguise. What lesson can I take from this? How can this challenge make me stronger, wiser, or more capable? The Stoics understood that setbacks are not enemies. They are opportunities, training grounds for inner strength and growth. By shifting your perspective, you move from running away from difficulties to approaching them with curiosity and courage. You stop resisting life and start learning from it, turning challenges into stepping stones for personal development. But seeing obstacles clearly is only part of the Stoic path. Another key practice is gratitude, being thankful for what is, instead of wishing for what could be. So often, we spend our energy imagining a different reality. If only my job were better, if only my relationships were different, if only life were easier, then I would be happy. We compare ourselves to others or to an imagined perfect life and miss the peace available in the present. Life is rarely perfect, and waiting for perfection keeps us trapped in frustration and longing. The Stoics taught that peace comes from accepting reality as it is. Acceptance does not mean giving up or resigning yourself to a poor situation. It means recognizing the present moment and finding calm within it. When you resist what is, you create inner conflict, like struggling against the flow of a river. No matter how hard you fight, you cannot control everything. But when you embrace what is, you can find gratitude and contentment even in the midst of difficulty. You can appreciate your health, your abilities, your relationships, and even the lessons hidden in hardships. Gratitude becomes a powerful tool for inner peace. Imagine starting your day focusing on what you already have instead of what is missing. By noticing small blessings, a kind word, a clear mind, a meal, a moment of laughter, you train yourself to find joy in the present. You begin to see that life is not a series of setbacks, but a series of opportunities to grow, to learn, and to appreciate what is right in front of you. Acceptance and gratitude are intertwined. Accept what you cannot change and be thankful for the gifts in your life. This mindset brings clarity, contentment, and a sense of serenity that no external event can take away. Life will never be perfect, but your peace does not have to depend on perfection. By practicing gratitude for what is and embracing challenges as teachers, you free yourself from frustration and fear. You stop wishing for a different life and start fully inhabiting the life you have. You transform obstacles into opportunities and find calm even when things do not go your way. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. Peace comes not from controlling the world, but from mastering your mind, your perception, and your heart. By seeing life clearly, appreciating what is, and learning from every experience, you can live fully, calmly, and wisely. Imagine how much energy we waste wishing life were different. If only things went our way, if only circumstances were easier, if only people acted the way we wanted. The Stoics understood that this constant resistance to reality only creates frustration and suffering. True peace, they taught, comes from accepting life as it is and finding gratitude in the present moment. Gratitude doesn't mean you stop striving to improve your life. It doesn't mean you ignore challenges or settle for less than you deserve. Instead, gratitude means noticing and appreciating what is already good, even when life is imperfect. It's a conscious shift from focusing on what is missing to valuing what is already present. There is something deeply freeing about this practice. When you stop fighting the natural course of life, when you stop wishing for something different, you reclaim your energy. You stop letting frustration and negativity dominate your mind. By practicing gratitude for what is, you create space for peace. This doesn't require waiting for big, dramatic moments of joy or accomplishment. The Stoics believed in noticing the small blessings, the warmth of a morning cup of coffee, the sound of birds outside your window, the comfort of a friend who listens when you need them. These small moments, often overlooked, are just as important as life's larger milestones. The psychologist Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." This idea aligns perfectly with the Stoic approach. The more we resist reality, the more power we give to frustration and dissatisfaction. But when we turn our attention to gratitude, when we accept reality, Even with its imperfections, we take back control. We stop letting what we don't have steal our joy. We begin to see beauty in the imperfect, strength in the struggles, and value in the ordinary moments of life. Gratitude is not a passive feeling. It is an active choice. It is something we practice daily. The Stoics didn't wait for life to be perfect before they appreciated it. They trained themselves to notice and embrace what was already present. Over time, this practice changes how we experience the world. We are less reactive to difficulties, less consumed by longing, and more capable of finding calm in the middle of chaos. By focusing on gratitude, we build a strong foundation for inner peace, one that is not dependent on external circumstances or perfect conditions. Every day, even in the midst of challenges, we can choose to pause and notice what is good. We can focus on the simple things, the ordinary blessings, and the ways life supports us in ways we might usually take for granted. This mindset strengthens the mind, nurtures the spirit, and creates a calm, resilient heart. It is not about denying life's difficulties. It's about reclaiming our joy and power despite them. Gratitude, when practiced intentionally and consistently, becomes a path to freedom, allowing us to live fully in the present, embrace life as it is, and cultivate peace that no outside event can take away. The Stoics understood that gratitude is not about waiting for life to be perfect. They didn't wait for everything to go their way, for luck to favor them, or for circumstances to match their desires before feeling grateful. Instead, they chose to find the good in every situation, even when it wasn't obvious. This is an important lesson for all of us. Peace and contentment don't come from waiting for life to be perfect. They come from noticing what is already good around us. Gratitude is a skill we can all cultivate. It doesn't require perfection, wealth, or an easy life. It only requires presence, a willingness to pause and notice the small blessings that often go unseen. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. What are you grateful for right now? Maybe it's something big, like having the opportunity to learn and grow today. Maybe it's something small, like a warm cup of coffee, a comfortable chair, or the food on your plate. Even these small things, when we pause to notice them, create a sense of calm and appreciation. The Stoics understood that these little moments make up the majority of our day-to-day experience, and recognizing them helps us cultivate peace that comes from within rather than from external circumstances. Gratitude is like a muscle. The more we practice it, the stronger it becomes. Over time, this practice trains the mind to focus on the positive, to see opportunities for growth and meaning, even when life feels difficult. It helps us build resilience. When we focus on what is good in our lives, we are better equipped to face challenges. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending hardships don't exist. Life is not always easy, and the Stoics never claimed it was. But they chose to focus on the lessons within adversity. They understood that even setbacks and struggles could teach us something valuable, and that noticing the good, even in difficult situations, strengthens our ability to cope. This mindset doesn't magically remove life's challenges, but it changes how we respond to them. When we notice what we are grateful for, we feel calmer and more capable of handling difficulties. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, we feel equipped. Gratitude reminds us that even in our hardest moments, we are not powerless. This is why consistency is so important. Gratitude is not a one-time action or something to practice only when life is easy. It's a daily habit, a lens through which we view our world. The Stoics practiced this daily, finding reasons to be grateful in the smallest and simplest things. Even when life feels hard, when setbacks, frustration, or pain come our way, we can still find things to appreciate. Maybe it's the support of a friend, the chance to rest, or simply the fact that we are alive to experience another day. By noticing these things, we shift our attention from what is lacking or frustrating to what is present and positive. Over time, this practice strengthens our mind and spirit. We become less reactive to difficulties, more grounded in our emotions, and more able to face life with calm and clarity. Gratitude trains us to see the silver lining even when the clouds feel heavy, creating a lasting foundation for inner peace that no external circumstance can shake. Life is full of challenges and obstacles, and sometimes it feels like they are too much to handle. In those moments, gratitude becomes a powerful tool. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring the difficulties or pretending everything is fine. It means choosing to face the challenges with a heart that notices what is going well. When you take a moment to be grateful, even the darkest situations seem a little brighter. Gratitude gives you a new lens to see the world. It reminds you that even in hardship, there is still something to appreciate. This can be simple. The warmth of the sun on your face, a friendly smile from a stranger, a comfortable chair, or even the food on your plate. By pausing and reflecting on these things, you let yourself truly feel gratitude. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. You start to notice how peaceful and grounded you feel, even when life isn't perfect. Gratitude turns what we have into enough, and in that sense of sufficiency, we discover a deep and lasting peace. The Stoics were masters of this. They didn't wait for perfect circumstances to feel content. They learned to find joy in the present moment and in the simple blessings around them. Along with gratitude, the Stoics emphasized focusing on what you can control. Much of our frustration comes from things beyond our control. Other people's actions, delays, weather, or unexpected events. We often waste energy trying to change what we cannot. True freedom, the Stoics teach us, comes from releasing the need to control what is uncontrollable and focusing instead on what we can control. Our thoughts, choices, and responses. Consider the times you have been upset because of something you couldn't influence. A delayed flight, someone cutting in line, or a coworker's behavior. Worrying about these things doesn't change them. It only drains your peace and leaves you feeling powerless. By choosing to focus on your own responses and actions, you regain control over your inner world. This doesn't mean you stop caring about your life or your goals, nor does it mean you avoid improving your circumstances. It simply means you stop wasting energy on what isn't yours to manage. When you combine gratitude with this focus on what you can control, you create a life that is calmer, more resilient, and more centered. You learn to meet difficulties with clarity, rather than stress. You begin to understand that happiness and peace are not found in changing the outside world, but in mastering your inner world. The Stoics believed that this awareness is the path to true freedom, a freedom that cannot be taken from you no matter what happens around you. The Stoics emphasized a very important distinction, understanding the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. Life constantly throws situations at us that we have no power over. Other people's words, their actions, unexpected delays, or events outside our influence. Many of us spend so much time and energy worrying about these things, trying to control the uncontrollable. The Stoics weren't asking people to be passive or indifferent. On the contrary, they encouraged awareness. Awareness means knowing what is within your power to change and accepting what is not. It means stopping the fight against things you cannot influence and redirecting your energy to the things you can. Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, and your responses. Think about your day. How much of it was spent feeling upset or frustrated over things outside your control? Maybe someone said something rude, or a situation at work didn't go the way you expected. If you look closely, most of these things were not in your power to change. You can't control what others do or how circumstances unfold, but you can control how you respond. You can choose your attitude, your mindset, and your actions. That simple shift, focusing on your own sphere of control, changes everything. It frees your energy from unnecessary stress, leaving you with more space to grow, strengthen relationships, and maintain inner calm. Here's a practical way to practice this. Make a mental or written list of the things that are bothering or stressing you. For each item, ask yourself, can I control this? If the answer is no, let it go. Stop spinning in circles trying to fix what you cannot change. Instead, put your attention on the things you can influence, how you react, how you think, and what actions you take. With practice, you'll notice that most of the things that stress us are not in our control. Accepting this reality is liberating. There's another powerful benefit to this approach. When you focus on what you can control, challenges stop being overwhelming obstacles and start being opportunities for growth. If something doesn't go according to plan, instead of becoming frustrated or defeated, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I respond wisely? By doing this, every setback becomes a chance to practice patience, resilience, and self-discipline. You begin to see life not as a series of unfair events, but as a training ground where each challenge strengthens your character. This mindset also builds peace of mind. You stop giving your power to external circumstances or to other people's behavior. No one can make you angry, anxious, or upset unless you allow it. By focusing on your own thoughts and actions, you reclaim control over your emotional state. Over time, this habit of recognizing what you can control and letting go of the rest makes life feel lighter and more manageable. You feel stronger, calmer, and more capable of handling whatever comes your way. The key is practice. Start small. The next time you feel frustration or worry, pause and ask yourself, is this in my control? If it's not, let it go. Focus on what you can do. Over time, this becomes natural. You'll notice that life feels less chaotic because you're no longer giving your energy to things that don't matter. You'll handle challenges with more clarity and confidence. You'll respond instead of reacting. And gradually, you'll start to see obstacles as opportunities to grow rather than burdens to endure. That's the wisdom the Stoics taught. A life of calm, clarity, and power that comes from focusing only on what is truly within your control. One of the most important lessons of Stoicism is learning to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Whenever life throws a challenge your way, this simple question shifts your perspective in a powerful way. Instead of feeling overwhelmed or defeated by circumstances beyond your control, you begin to see them as opportunities to grow, to gain wisdom, and to strengthen your character. Life is unpredictable, and it is easy to feel frustrated when things don't go according to plan. Perhaps you've been working hard toward a goal, yet despite your efforts, progress seems slow or obstacles keep appearing. It's natural to feel discouraged, to think that the world is working against you. But the Stoics teach that it's not the obstacles themselves that hold power over you, it's how you respond to them. When you focus on learning from challenges rather than controlling everything around you, you begin to reclaim your power. The key is to focus on what is within your control, your thoughts, your choices, and your actions. You may not be able to change the outcome, but you can change the effort you put in, the attitude you carry, and the way you handle setbacks. By taking this approach, you stop obsessing over things that are out of your reach and start using your energy in ways that actually matter. You may begin to notice that instead of being a passive victim of circumstances, you are becoming an active participant in your own growth. Another profound benefit of this mindset is that it ends the constant cycle of comparison with others. When you focus on what you can control, you no longer measure your progress or worth against someone else's achievements. Everyone has a different journey, and what matters is your own effort and growth. You stop feeling jealous, frustrated, or competitive over other people's success. Instead, you focus on becoming the best version of yourself at your own pace. This freedom from comparing yourself and worrying about outcomes, is incredibly liberating. You begin to move forward confidently, knowing that your effort is what counts, not circumstances or the actions of others. Practicing this principle also changes the way you deal with life's unpredictability. You no longer feel tossed around by events outside your control. Instead, you take responsibility for your own responses. You recognize that your emotional state doesn't have to depend on external events. It depends on your mindset, your choices, and your focus. This is where real power lies. The ability to remain calm, clear-headed, and resilient no matter what is happening around you. Every challenge becomes a chance to exercise self-control, patience, and wisdom. Over time, consistently applying this mindset builds inner strength and resilience. You stop being a slave to circumstances and start being the master of your own mind. Life's setbacks no longer frustrate you endlessly. Instead, they become lessons to learn from and stepping stones to grow stronger. This perspective also builds confidence because you realize that no matter what happens, you always have control over your own actions and reactions. That realization, that sense of personal power, is the essence of Stoic freedom. By asking yourself, what can I learn from this? You train your mind to seek the lesson in every situation. You turn challenges into opportunities and frustration into growth. You no longer fight against life. Instead, you work with it, using each experience to become wiser, calmer, and more capable. In the process, you develop a mindset that is steady, resilient, and centered, a mind that is not shaken by the unpredictability of life but strengthened by it. This is the Stoic path, mastering your own thoughts and actions, focusing on what you can control, and using every challenge as a chance to grow into the best version of yourself. Anger is one of the strongest emotions we can feel. It rises quickly, sometimes so fast that it feels uncontrollable. In those moments, the urge to lash out, to speak your mind, or to make someone see how you feel can be overwhelming. It can feel like reacting immediately is the only option. But the Stoics teach a different approach. Silence. Choosing silence doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending you don't care. It means taking control of your response rather than letting your emotions take over. When you stay silent, you create space between what happens and how you react. That space is where power lies. Imagine someone insults you, criticizes you unfairly, or cuts you off in traffic. The natural reaction might be to yell, defend yourself, or retaliate. But the Stoics remind us that the most powerful response is sometimes to say nothing at all. When you don't react, you stop giving the other person control over your emotions. You don't allow their words or actions to dictate your mood. Instead, you maintain composure and calm, showing quiet strength. Silence is not weakness. It is mastery over yourself. Think about how many times you've reacted in anger, only to regret what you said later. Words spoken in the heat of the moment can't be taken back. They can harm your relationships, your reputation, and your own peace of mind. Silence, on the other hand, carries no risk of damage. In the pause that silence creates, you give yourself time to think, reflect, and choose a wise response. You don't need to prove anything, defend yourself, or retaliate immediately. By remaining silent, you demonstrate that your inner world is yours to control. Silence also allows for self-reflection. When anger arises, there is often a rush to react before thinking clearly. But when you pause, you can ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Will my reaction improve the situation? Often, the answer is no. Staying silent doesn't mean you accept injustice or mistreatment. It means you respond with thoughtfulness rather than impulse. You protect your peace while still staying in control of the situation. Using silence as a tool also strengthens emotional resilience. Each time you choose to stay quiet in a triggering moment, you practice patience, self-control, and awareness. Over time, it becomes easier to remain calm under pressure. You start to notice that your peace is not dependent on what other people do. It comes from your own choices. Silence becomes a shield, a way to maintain dignity and control in situations that might otherwise provoke frustration or anger. The practice of silence is simple in concept but powerful in its effects. Next time you feel anger rising, instead of reacting immediately, pause, take a breath, say nothing. Allow the moment to pass and observe your feelings without acting on them. In that silence, you regain your power, protect your peace, and respond with wisdom rather than impulse. Over time, this habit transforms your interactions and strengthens your inner calm. You realize that you don't need to argue, prove yourself, or respond to every slight. Your strength lies in your ability to remain composed and centered, no matter what the world throws at you. Silence is not inaction. It is thoughtful action. It allows you to respond deliberately rather than react emotionally. It's one of the most effective ways to protect your peace, maintain control, and build confidence in yourself. By practicing this art regularly, you will notice a deeper calm within, a confidence that comes from knowing your emotions don't control you, they serve you. Choosing silence is not just a strategy for moments of anger. It is a lifelong skill that cultivates wisdom, resilience, and inner strength. Anger and provocation are part of life, and our natural instinct is often to react immediately. When someone insults us, cuts us off, or challenges us, our brain tells us to defend ourselves, to assert our rights, or to strike back verbally. That immediate reaction can feel necessary, almost automatic. But the Stoics teach us that one of the most powerful tools we have in these moments is silence. Taking a moment to pause, to breathe, and to remain quiet allows us to step out of the heat of emotion and ask important questions. What is really happening here? Why am I feeling this way? Is this insult about me, Or is it more about the other person's state of mind? Is this situation truly worth my energy? Or will silence allow me to preserve my peace and move forward? When we resist the urge to react immediately, we create a space for reflection. That pause prevents us from saying or doing something we might regret. It allows us to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Silence is a skill, not something most of us are born with. We are wired to react, to defend ourselves, to speak up when we feel wronged. But by practicing silence consistently in our daily lives, we begin to build inner strength. Each time you pause instead of reacting, whether it's to a rude driver in traffic or an argument at work, you practice self-control. Over time, this builds a calm confidence that comes from knowing you control your reactions, rather than your reactions controlling you. Silence has another unique power. It changes how others react. When you stay quiet in the face of provocation, the person trying to provoke you often becomes uncertain. They no longer get the reaction they expected. Instead of feeding their negativity, you remain composed, which can cause them to reflect on their own behavior. Your silence can subtly shift the dynamic of the interaction, giving you an advantage without a word being spoken. This isn't about manipulating people, it's about maintaining your own peace and control, which in turn can positively influence the situation. It's important to note that silence isn't always the answer. There are times when speaking up is necessary. When you need to set boundaries, defend yourself, or address real injustice. But even in these cases, the power comes not from reacting impulsively but from choosing your words carefully. Responding with intention and awareness makes your communication stronger, more effective, and more controlled. Silence doesn't mean avoiding conflict, it means managing it wisely. By pausing, reflecting, and then speaking only when it serves the situation, you maintain dignity, clarity, and authority. Practicing silence is also an exercise in self-discipline. It trains you to manage your emotions, to resist the pull of immediate gratification, and to act from a place of calm rather than reaction. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes to pause in moments of anger or frustration. Over time, silence allows you to maintain your composure in a way that words alone cannot. It gives you clarity, control, and a sense of inner power. Consider small examples. A driver cuts you off, and your instinct is to honk or yell. Instead, you pause, breathe, and remain quiet. The situation passes, and your peace is intact. At work, a colleague criticizes you unfairly. Instead of reacting defensively, you stay silent, thinking through the situation before responding. In both cases, silence preserves your calm and allows for a more thoughtful, intentional response later. The art of silence goes beyond managing anger. It strengthens your emotional resilience, teaches self-discipline, and creates space for reflection. It allows you to step out of cycles of reactive emotions and step into a place of control and clarity. Over time, this practice becomes a foundation for a calm, strong, and centered life. Silence is not passivity or weakness. It is an active choice to take charge of your mind, your emotions, and your interactions. By embracing silence, you gain power, peace, and freedom that no external situation can take away. Anger can appear unexpectedly. One moment, everything seems fine, and the next, a small comment, a rude gesture, or even being stuck in traffic triggers a rush of irritation. In those moments, it can feel as though the world is revolving entirely around that annoyance. But the Stoics remind us that anger often grows when we focus on the wrong things. It escalates when we fixate on minor irritations, small injustices, or things we cannot control. When we give our attention to these moments, we are handing over our peace to them. The more we dwell on the negative, the more it dominates our emotional state. But there is a better way. Choosing silence in the face of provocation is a powerful first step. Silence allows you to pause, reflect, and regain control over your impulses. It is not about suppressing emotions or pretending you are fine. Instead, it is about recognizing that you do not need to react to every slight, insult, or frustration. You can remain grounded and composed, observing the situation and deciding whether or not to engage. This practice of detachment strengthens your inner self. It teaches you that your peace is more important than proving a point or reacting in anger. Over time, silence becomes a tool for maintaining composure, reducing stress, and reclaiming control in chaotic situations. Once you understand the power of silence, the next step is learning to shift your focus. Anger often thrives when our attention is fixed on minor annoyances. Perhaps someone spoke carelessly, or a situation didn't go your way. The more you dwell on these moments, the more anger grows. The Stoics, who studied the human mind deeply, taught that the key to a peaceful life is deciding what we focus on. Instead of obsessing over what frustrates us, we can direct our attention toward things that truly matter: wisdom, growth, learning, and virtue. These are the areas that nourish our spirit and make life meaningful. Shifting focus does not mean denying reality or pretending that negative experiences do not exist. Life will always include challenges, insults, and frustrations. But we do have the power to choose where we put our energy. When a rude comment or a small inconvenience arises, we can decide not to dwell on it. Instead, we can think about what is within our control, what can help us grow, and what can bring us peace. By doing this, we remove the fuel from anger. When our attention is directed toward meaningful and positive things, negative emotions lose their power over us. Practicing this shift takes awareness and patience. The next time you feel irritation rising, pause and ask yourself, what am I focusing on? Is this helping me? Is this in my control? Often, you will realize that the source of your anger is something small or outside your influence. In that moment, you have the choice to let it go. You can redirect your energy toward thoughts, actions, or activities that improve your day, deepen your understanding, or strengthen your character. This simple act of shifting focus gradually changes the way you experience life. Over time, silence and focus work together to give you emotional resilience. Silence gives you the space to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Shifting focus ensures that your mind invests in what is valuable, rather than being trapped in irritation. Combined, these practices help you maintain peace even when life is chaotic or frustrating. They allow you to respond with intention, strength, and wisdom instead of reacting to every challenge with anger. This approach also changes how you view other people. Instead of seeing careless words or minor slights as attacks, you learn to interpret them in context. You realize that often, these moments say more about the other person than about you. By choosing silence and redirecting your focus, you stop giving external events control over your emotional state. You reclaim your power, cultivate inner peace, and create a mindset where anger no longer rules your reactions. In practical terms, this means being mindful throughout your day. Notice when frustration arises, pause, and breathe. Ask yourself, is this worth my attention? Does it serve me to react? Can I focus on something that matters more? Even small, consistent practice builds a mental habit that shifts the default response from anger to calm, reflection, and purposeful action. Over weeks and months, you will notice that minor irritations no longer disturb your peace as they once did. Instead, you respond from a place of strength, clarity, and wisdom. Ultimately, choosing silence and shifting your focus are about mastering yourself. Life will always be unpredictable, and external events cannot always be controlled. But by controlling your attention, your thoughts, and your responses, you regain your freedom. You choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and strength over reaction. By practicing these Stoic principles, you build a life where anger no longer dominates, and your inner calm becomes a constant foundation, regardless of what happens around you. Anger and frustration are natural human reactions. They can appear suddenly, often triggered by things that seem small but feel significant in the moment, like a delay in your plans, a rude comment, or a mistake that sets you back. In these moments, it's easy to focus entirely on what's happening outside of you: the traffic jam, the other person's words, or the unexpected obstacle. But the Stoics teach that these external factors are often beyond your control. What really matters is how you respond to them. Your emotional state is not determined by what happens to you. It's determined by where you place your focus. When you feel anger rising, the first step is to pause. Take a breath and step back from the situation. Notice the emotions you are feeling and acknowledge them without letting them take over. Then, consciously redirect your attention to something within your control. This could be your response, your actions, or your thoughts. It could also mean focusing on personal growth, your goals, or the things that bring you joy and meaning. By choosing where to place your attention, you stop giving power to the frustration and begin to regain control over your inner state. This shift in focus can be small but powerful. For example, if you're upset about a conversation that didn't go well, instead of dwelling on what the other person said, you could focus on what you learned from the experience or how you might handle similar situations better in the future. If something disrupts your plans, instead of ruminating on the inconvenience, you could redirect your energy to a project you enjoy or a task you can complete right now. Even noticing and appreciating simple things, the warmth of the sun, a comforting cup of coffee, or a friendly smile, can pull you out of the cycle of anger. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes to break the cycle of frustration. Anger often feels justified because we perceive a situation as unfair or threatening, but the Stoics remind us that external events are rarely within our control. The only thing we can control is how we respond. By focusing on what you can influence, you reclaim your power and stop being a victim of circumstances. Anger loses its grip when you consciously redirect your energy towards something constructive or positive. This might be completing a task, pursuing a goal, reflecting on a lesson, or simply appreciating the small joys of life. Over time, this practice brings a sense of freedom. When you stop letting external events control your emotional state, you realize how much control you actually have. You are no longer swept along by frustration or anger. Instead, you are steering your own reactions. The Stoics understood that peace comes from within. By focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, actions, and responses, you build a steady foundation of inner calm, regardless of what happens around you. This inner strength allows you to navigate life with intention, clarity, and wisdom. Importantly, this doesn't mean ignoring your emotions or pretending they don't exist. Anger is natural, and it is okay to feel it. What the Stoics teach is that you don't have to let anger control your decisions, your relationships, or your peace of mind. Instead, you can choose to respond thoughtfully, channeling the energy into something positive, meaningful, or productive. By practicing this regularly, you train your mind to focus on what truly matters, to let go of what you cannot control, and to remain grounded even in difficult situations. So the next time you feel anger rising, pause and ask yourself, where am I placing my attention? Is this helping me? Can I focus on something that I can control or something that will help me grow? In that moment, you regain your power, calm your mind, and take the first step toward a more peaceful, intentional, and controlled life. By shifting your focus, you turn frustration into energy for growth, anger into fuel for positive action, and challenges into opportunities to strengthen your mind and character. This simple but profound practice can transform the way you experience life, helping you navigate difficulties with clarity, wisdom, and peace. Anger is one of the most powerful and potentially destructive emotions we experience. At first, it may feel like a natural response to unfair treatment or injustice. You might feel justified in your anger, believing that someone or something has wronged you. But the Stoics recognize that anger, if left unchecked, is like a beast. It grows stronger the more you feed it. Each thought of frustration, resentment, or revenge adds fuel to the fire. What begins as a small spark can quickly become a raging inferno, burning us from the inside out and clouding our judgment. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, warned that anger, if not controlled, often harms us more than it harms those who provoked it. When we hold on to anger, it affects our peace of mind, our decisions, and our ability to respond wisely. It can damage relationships, make us lash out, and trap us in a cycle of negativity. The more we dwell on what angered us, the more power we give it over our lives. Anger is not just about the external situation, it's about what we allow inside ourselves. The Stoics didn't deny that anger is natural. Everyone feels it, but they emphasized that we always have a choice in how we respond. The first step is awareness. The moment you notice the heat building in your chest, the tension rising in your body, or the racing thoughts that replay the injustice, you have already taken the first step to regain control. Simply noticing anger before it overwhelms you allows you to pause and decide what to do next. Once you recognize anger, you can choose not to feed it. Feeding it means continuing to dwell on the negative thoughts, replaying the situation, or letting it influence your words and actions. Starving it means redirecting your attention to something else, something constructive, calming, or positive. This might feel difficult at first, because anger often demands immediate attention, like a beast demanding food. But with practice, you learn that you can let it go without losing control. A practical step is to take a pause whenever anger rises. Stop for a moment. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Give yourself a few seconds of space before reacting. This small pause creates a gap between the stimulus, the event or insult, and your response. In that gap, you regain the power to choose. You may focus on your breath, a solution to the problem, or a different perspective that reduces the intensity of your feelings. The more consistently you practice this, the easier it becomes to starve the anger before it grows into something uncontrollable. Redirecting your focus can also mean turning your energy toward things you can control. Instead of dwelling on the person who wronged you, think about your response, your actions, or something meaningful in your life. Maybe you channel the energy into a productive task, a creative project, or simply appreciating what is good in your life. By consciously choosing to focus on what nourishes your mind and spirit, the beast of anger slowly loses its strength. The Stoics understood that this is not a one-time fix. It is a practice. Anger will always arise in life, but every time you notice it and refuse to feed it, you strengthen your control over your emotions. Over time, this practice transforms your inner life. You become less reactive, more composed, and better able to handle difficult situations with clarity and calm. You stop being a prisoner to anger and reclaim your peace. The power of this practice is profound because it shows that our emotional life is largely in our control. External events may provoke anger, but how we respond is always our choice. By refusing to feed the beast, we weaken it. We break the cycle of frustration and resentment and create space for reason, clarity, and peace. In doing so, we become stronger, calmer, and wiser, learning to live with intention rather than being driven by uncontrolled impulses. Anger is a natural human emotion, but it is also one that can easily get out of control if we let it. The Stoics understood that anger will arise for everyone. It is inevitable. But they also understood that how we deal with it is entirely up to us. Each time you feel anger rising, it presents a choice. You can either feed it, dwell on it, let it grow and dominate your thoughts and actions, or you can starve it by shifting your attention elsewhere. This is the key to controlling anger instead of letting it control you. When anger comes, you have the opportunity to pause and ask yourself, do I want to keep fueling this feeling, letting it grow stronger? Or do I want to let it fade by turning my focus to something else? The moment you redirect your attention, the power of anger begins to diminish. This could be as simple as thinking about something positive, reflecting on a goal you are working toward, or noticing the small beauty around you. The warmth of the sun, the sound of birds, or a kind gesture from someone nearby. By consciously choosing to redirect your focus, you are starving the beast of anger and taking back control over your emotions. The Stoics were masters at this practice. They understood that life would bring challenges, and that anger was unavoidable at times. But they also taught that anger is not meant to control us. We always have the power to choose when to engage with it and when to let it go. Importantly, this does not mean suppressing your feelings or pretending anger doesn't exist. Recognizing anger for what it truly is, a temporary and fleeting emotion, gives you the freedom to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Another powerful tool for starving anger is changing your perspective. Often, we get angry because we feel wronged, disrespected, or misunderstood. But many times, the person causing our anger is acting out of their own frustration, pain, or lack of awareness. Sometimes, the situation itself is simply a test of our patience, self-control, or resilience. By choosing to look at the situation from a different angle, we can detach from the immediate emotional reaction. Instead of focusing on what is wrong or unfair, we can ask, What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this experience? In doing so, we stop feeding anger and instead feed our growth and inner strength. Each time we practice letting go of anger, we build resilience. We learn to control our impulses, respond thoughtfully rather than react emotionally, and prevent negative emotions from controlling our day. Over time, this practice rewires our habits, making it less likely that small frustrations or perceived slights will derail our peace. By not giving our power away to external circumstances, we feel more grounded, more in control, and more at ease with ourselves. This practice also teaches us consistency. Anger may arise again and again, but the more we consciously choose not to feed it, the stronger our inner calm becomes. We begin to notice a shift in how we respond to life's challenges. Instead of reacting impulsively or explosively, we pause, reflect, and decide. Over weeks and months of practice, choosing peace over anger, clarity over confusion, and calm over chaos becomes second nature. The Stoics remind us that our peace is not dependent on the outside world, but on our inner choices. By refusing to feed the beast of anger, we reclaim our power, strengthen our minds, and cultivate a sense of balance that allows us to face life's challenges with composure. Over time, this approach transforms not just how we handle anger, but how we live our lives. More mindful, more resilient, and more at peace. One of the most powerful benefits of learning not to feed anger is the sense of freedom it brings. Anger can feel like a beast inside us, growing stronger the more attention we give it. But when we consciously choose not to engage with anger, we stop letting it control us. We stop allowing the words or actions of others, or small inconveniences in life, to dictate how we feel. Imagine going through an entire day without letting minor irritations disrupt your peace, without snapping at a coworker, honking at someone who cuts you off in traffic, or reacting with frustration when things don't go your way. By refusing to feed the anger, we create space inside ourselves for calm, peace, and clarity. This inner peace is not dependent on the external world. It comes from our own choices and actions. When we practice this consistently, it also changes the way others interact with us. People begin to see that we are not easily provoked. They notice that we do not engage in unnecessary drama or conflict. By not giving in to anger, we teach others how to treat us. This doesn't mean we allow people to take advantage of us, but instead, we respond with composure, dignity, and grace regardless of how others behave. This kind of emotional mastery is incredibly powerful. It strengthens our relationships and transforms our relationship with ourselves. We begin to understand that while the world around us can be unpredictable, we always have control over how we react. This is the heart of Stoic wisdom. We cannot control everything that happens to us, but we can always control our reactions. When we choose not to feed anger, we regain our emotional sovereignty. Each time we make the conscious decision to focus on peace instead of reacting in anger, we build a stronger, more resilient version of ourselves. Over time, this practice trains us to create peace moment by moment, choice by choice, rather than waiting for life to be perfect. The Stoics teach that peace is something we cultivate internally. It is a skill that grows stronger with practice. Closely related to mastering anger is the practice of patience, a quality often overlooked in today's fast-paced world. Life moves quickly, and we are constantly rushing from one task to another, trying to accomplish more, and often getting frustrated when things don't happen immediately. But patience is the antidote to this constant rush. It allows us to slow down, be present, and respond with calm rather than irritation. Patience helps us navigate challenges with wisdom rather than haste. When we face delays, setbacks, or difficult people, patience gives us the space to consider our responses and choose the most thoughtful and constructive way to act. The Stoics understood that life would always present obstacles, frustrations, and moments of anger. They didn't pretend these challenges wouldn't happen. Instead, they taught that by practicing patience, we can respond to these challenges without losing our peace of mind. Patience is not about passive waiting or giving up. It is an active choice to remain composed, to reflect before acting, and to respond in a way that aligns with our values. By combining the practices of not feeding anger and cultivating patience, We create an inner environment where we can face life with resilience, clarity, and calm. Every time we choose patience over frustration or peace over anger, we strengthen our ability to live with emotional control. We begin to see that life is not something to fight against, but something to engage with thoughtfully. Challenges become opportunities to grow, irritations become chances to practice calm, and anger becomes a signal to pause, reflect, and redirect our energy towards something constructive. Over time, these practices build a foundation for lasting inner peace. We become less reactive, less controlled by external events, and more in command of our thoughts, actions, and emotions. The true gift of these Stoic practices is freedom. The freedom to live without being tossed around by every small frustration, insult, or delay. By refusing to feed anger and cultivating patience, we reclaim our time, energy, and emotional strength. We learn to respond thoughtfully, live intentionally, and create a life filled with calm, clarity, and purpose. In this way, patience and emotional mastery are not just virtues. They are tools that allow us to face life with wisdom, dignity, and unwavering inner peace. Patience is one of the most important virtues in Stoic philosophy. It teaches us to slow down, pause, and take a breath before reacting to anything in life. In a world that is always moving fast, patience is often overlooked, but it has the power to transform how we experience life. Patience is not about letting life pass us by or ignoring our responsibilities. It's about learning to handle challenges with grace, wisdom, and control. It's about how we act while we wait, how we manage our emotions, and how we continue moving forward even when things don't go the way we want. The Stoics understood that much of our suffering comes not from the events themselves but from our impatience. We often wish things were different, want situations to happen according to our schedule, or expect people to behave in ways that please us. When those expectations aren't met, we feel frustrated, angry, or upset. Patience, however, is about accepting that life doesn't always follow our plans. It's about learning to adapt, adjust, and continue moving forward with composure. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or letting things slide. It means that we don't allow our frustration or anger to cloud our judgment or interfere with our actions. True patience is an active practice, not just a passive endurance of life's annoyances. It allows us to create a gap between what happens and how we respond. This gap is where our power lies. It gives us the ability to choose our response rather than reacting impulsively. Think about the last time you were tested. Maybe you were stuck in traffic, dealing with a slow colleague, or waiting for an important decision. Did you react with irritation or anger, or did you pause, take a breath, and respond calmly? The choice to respond thoughtfully instead of impulsively is patience in action. Practicing patience doesn't just help in the moment. It builds strength and resilience for the future. Each time we handle a frustrating situation with calmness, we are training ourselves to respond better the next time. Over time, patience helps break the cycle of reactive emotions. Instead of automatically snapping at someone, becoming stressed over delays, or letting small problems ruin our mood, we can respond with intention and clarity. Patience teaches us that not every reaction has to be immediate, and not every problem requires an emotional response. The beauty of patience is that it works in both small and big moments. It can be as simple as waiting calmly in a line or as significant as navigating a long-term challenge at work or in a relationship. Each moment of patience strengthens our inner control. We learn that our emotional state doesn't have to depend on external circumstances. By practicing patience consistently, we develop the ability to face life with wisdom, maintain composure under pressure, and make better decisions. Patience also cultivates self-respect and peace of mind. When we respond with calm instead of frustration, we protect ourselves from regret and unnecessary stress. We also create better interactions with others, because patience allows us to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Over time, practicing patience becomes natural. It's like building a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it becomes. And the stronger it becomes, the more resilient, calm, and in control we feel in every area of life. In essence, patience is not just waiting. It is learning how to live wisely in the present, handling difficulties without losing our composure, and choosing our responses with thoughtfulness rather than impulsiveness. When we cultivate patience, we take control of our mind, our actions, and our emotional state. Life will always present challenges, delays, and frustrations, but with patience, we can meet them with grace, grow stronger from them, and maintain our inner peace no matter what happens. Patience is one of the most important qualities we can practice in life, yet it is often overlooked. It is not just about waiting, it is about how we respond while waiting. In everyday life, we are constantly faced with moments that test our patience. Standing in a long line, dealing with someone's rude comment, or working through unexpected setbacks. These small situations might seem insignificant, but they are perfect opportunities to practice patience. The more we respond calmly in these everyday challenges, the easier it becomes to remain composed when bigger problems arise. The Stoics, especially Seneca, emphasized the power of patience as a form of self-mastery. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This means that true freedom comes from controlling our emotions rather than letting them control us. Patience is an exercise in self-control. It allows us to pause before reacting, to respond with wisdom instead of frustration, and to maintain clarity of thought even in difficult situations. It is not just about anger or irritation. It applies to every part of life. Patience helps us navigate challenges with calm, think more clearly, make better decisions, and maintain our inner peace. We live in a fast-paced world where instant gratification has become the norm. We expect quick results, fast service, and immediate answers. When things don't happen on our schedule, we often feel frustrated or anxious. Patience teaches us to slow down, to understand that some things take time, and to accept that the best outcomes often come when we are willing to wait. It reminds us that not everything is within our control, and that trying to force life to follow our timeline only leads to stress and disappointment. Practicing patience is about creating space between stimulus and response. The next time you are faced with a frustrating moment, pause and ask yourself, how can I respond with patience right now? It could be as simple as taking a deep breath, reminding yourself that the moment is temporary, or shifting your attention to something positive that you can control. In that pause, you regain your power. By responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively, you maintain control over your emotions and your actions. Patience also teaches us acceptance. Often, impatience arises because we want things to happen exactly on our terms and our timeline. Life, however, is unpredictable and doesn't always align with our plans. Patience is about learning to accept this reality without frustration. It is not about giving up on our goals or ambitions. On the contrary, patience allows us to focus on what we can control, our actions, our mindset, and our responses, while letting go of the stress caused by things beyond our influence. When we practice patience consistently, it becomes a habit. Small daily moments of waiting, frustration, or delay become opportunities to strengthen our self-mastery. Over time, patience transforms from a difficult choice into a natural way of being. We learn that our inner peace does not depend on external circumstances. Instead, it comes from our ability to respond wisely and calmly, even when life is unpredictable or challenging. Ultimately, patience is a form of empowerment. It frees us from being ruled by our immediate reactions, helps us maintain clarity and composure, and allows us to navigate life with confidence. By practicing patience in small moments, we build the skills and resilience necessary to face life's larger challenges with calm and wisdom. Through patience, we learn that our power lies not in controlling the world around us, but in controlling ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions, and our responses. Patience is one of the most important skills we can practice in life, especially when dealing with other people. Life constantly presents situations where we must interact with individuals who can be frustrating, rude, or difficult to understand. At first, it might feel natural to respond with anger or irritation, but patience teaches us to pause, take a breath, and consider the bigger picture. Often, the person frustrating us may be struggling with their own challenges or simply having a bad day. By approaching others with patience and empathy, rather than judgment or frustration, we are able to respond more thoughtfully. This improves our relationships, prevents unnecessary conflict, and helps maintain our inner peace. Patience is not passive. It is an active choice to remain grounded, composed, and aware of how we react to the world around us. In addition to patience, the way we manage our expectations plays a huge role in our happiness and peace of mind. Expectations are mental images we create about how things should be, how people should behave, how life should unfold, or how situations should turn out. When these expectations aren't met, frustration and disappointment naturally arise. The Stoics taught that much of our suffering comes from expecting life and others to follow our plans. They suggested shifting our focus from trying to control external events, which is impossible, to managing our own responses, which is entirely within our power. By lowering unrealistic expectations of others, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and resentment. Lowering expectations doesn't mean giving up on goals, standards, or care for others. It simply means accepting reality for what it is and not demanding perfection from people or situations. People will make mistakes, act in ways we don't like, or fall short of our hopes. Life will not always go as planned. By accepting this truth, we are able to respond with calm, wisdom, and compassion rather than frustration and anger. This approach doesn't make us passive. Instead, it strengthens our emotional resilience and empowers us to maintain our peace in any situation. Patience and simplified expectations also enhance our ability to think clearly and make better decisions. When we are not reacting impulsively to irritations or disappointed when things don't go our way, we create space to consider thoughtful responses. We develop a sense of control over our emotions, which allows us to handle challenges more effectively. Patience teaches us to step out of the cycle of reactive emotions, while simplified expectations reduce the likelihood of feeling let down by external events or other people's behavior. Together, these practices allow us to navigate life with clarity, grace, and inner strength. Ultimately, the combination of patience and realistic expectations is a tool for living wisely. By focusing on our own reactions and letting go of the need to control everything, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. We learn to flow with life, accept its unpredictability, and respond in ways that reflect our values rather than being driven by external circumstances. As we practice patience and simplify expectations, we notice that our peace is less dependent on others and more on our own ability to respond with calm and wisdom. We become stronger, more resilient, and better able to handle whatever challenges life presents. In practical terms, this means that when someone frustrates us, we pause instead of reacting immediately. We remind ourselves that they may have struggles we don't see, and we choose a response rooted in empathy. When life doesn't meet our expectations, we accept it without letting disappointment or frustration take over. We shift our attention to what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and responses, and release the rest. This mindset fosters freedom, peace, and the ability to live intentionally rather than reactively. The Stoics taught that we cannot control the actions of others or the flow of life, but we can always control how we respond. By practicing patience and managing expectations, we take charge of our own emotional state and cultivate a life of calm, clarity, and strength. A huge part of finding peace in life comes from letting go of our expectations. We often carry around mental lists of how we think life should be, how people should behave, and how events should unfold. When reality doesn't match these expectations, frustration, disappointment, and stress naturally arise. We spend so much energy holding on to these shoulds, worrying about how others act, or stressing over outcomes we cannot control. The Stoics taught that this is a major source of unnecessary suffering. When we stop clinging to rigid expectations and instead accept life as it is, we free ourselves from this weight. Accepting reality doesn't mean being passive or indifferent. It means choosing to respond with understanding, calm, and wisdom rather than reacting with anger or frustration. It allows us to focus on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and emotional responses. Lowering expectations also improves our relationships. When we stop demanding perfection from others, we approach people with more compassion and patience. We stop being easily frustrated when they make mistakes or act in ways we don't like. This doesn't mean we let people walk over us or stop caring. It simply means we choose to engage without letting disappointment or resentment take over. By letting go of rigid expectations, we create space for peace, acceptance, and contentment. We stop comparing ourselves to others or measuring our worth by external standards, and instead we appreciate ourselves for who we are. Alongside managing expectations, understanding that everything in life is temporary, embracing impermanence, is a key part of living peacefully. Often, when anger flares or frustration builds, it feels like the situation or emotion will last forever. We think, this will never end, or I'll feel this way for the rest of my life. But the Stoics remind us that nothing in life is permanent. Anger, disappointment, and difficult situations are temporary. Just as joy and happiness come and go, so do challenges and painful moments. Recognizing the impermanence of emotions and circumstances helps us stay grounded. It allows us to take a step back in the middle of chaos and understand that the intensity of our feelings will pass, and the situation that triggered them will not last forever. By combining these two practices, lowering expectations and embracing impermanence, we create a powerful mindset for inner calm. We learn to accept reality as it is, to respond with wisdom, and to maintain our peace no matter what is happening around us. Life becomes less stressful because we no longer invest our energy in trying to control what we cannot. Instead, we focus on what we can control: our responses, our perspective, and our attitude. This approach gives us freedom. We are no longer prisoners of rigid expectations or temporary emotions. We can face challenges with resilience, navigate difficult relationships with patience, and enjoy the present moment without being weighed down by disappointment or fear of the future. Practically, this means that when something goes wrong or someone upsets us, we pause instead of reacting immediately. We remind ourselves that life is unpredictable and people are imperfect. We shift our focus from what should have happened to how we can respond wisely in the moment. When anger or frustration arises, we remember that these feelings, like everything else, are temporary. They will pass. By embracing this truth, we take the power back from negative emotions and regain control over our inner peace. Over time, practicing acceptance of impermanence and lowering expectations becomes a habit. We naturally respond to life with calm, clarity, and understanding, even in challenging situations. In the end, letting go of rigid expectations and embracing the impermanent nature of life allows us to live more fully. We stop chasing perfection, stop letting anger or disappointment control us, and find contentment in the present moment. Life is unpredictable. People are imperfect, and emotions are fleeting. But by focusing on what we can control and accepting the rest, we cultivate a life of peace, resilience, and wisdom. This is the essence of Stoic practice. Freedom from the weight of expectations, the ability to navigate life's challenges with calm, and the understanding that everything, both good and bad, is temporary. Life is full of moments that stir our emotions. Anger, frustration, disappointment, and sadness can arise suddenly, often making us feel like the situation will last forever. In those moments, it can feel like we are trapped, as if the intensity of our emotions will never fade. Yet, the Stoics remind us of a simple but powerful truth: everything is temporary. This idea is also reflected in the wisdom of Carl Jung, who said that the most frightening thing is to accept oneself completely. This acceptance is not only about embracing our strengths but also about recognizing the temporary nature of our emotions. When we realize that anger, like all feelings, is only temporary, we take away the control it has over us. Anger, frustration, and other strong emotions are natural responses to what is happening around us. They are not who we are. They are passing waves that appear and fade. When we stop identifying with these emotions, we gain a sense of detachment. Instead of being consumed by anger, we can observe it, acknowledge it, and let it pass. This does not mean ignoring our feelings or pretending they don't exist. Rather, it means we refuse to let them define our reality or dictate our actions. Like a storm, emotions can rage, but eventually, the skies clear. Recognizing this impermanence allows us to step back from the heat of the moment, regain our composure, and choose a thoughtful response instead of reacting impulsively. This perspective also transforms how we interact with others. Often, people act in ways that hurt, insult, or frustrate us. Without the awareness of impermanence, these moments can feel overwhelming and personal. We may respond with anger, lash out, or carry resentment. However, when we remember that both the situation and our emotional reaction are temporary, we gain freedom. We can pause, breathe, and respond with calmness and clarity. By treating emotions as temporary visitors rather than permanent residents, we stop letting them control our behavior. We become observers of our emotions, able to respond instead of react. Embracing impermanence also builds resilience. Life is unpredictable, and events rarely unfold exactly as we wish. Challenges, setbacks, and conflicts are inevitable, yet they do not have to define us. Each time we practice letting emotions pass, we strengthen our ability to face future challenges with patience and calm. We learn that resisting or fighting against life's natural flow only increases our suffering. Instead, by acknowledging that difficult moments are temporary, we allow them to pass naturally, while maintaining our inner peace. This practice is deeply empowering. It teaches us that we are not at the mercy of our feelings. Even when anger, disappointment, or fear feels intense, it will eventually fade. We are capable of choosing how to respond, and we can cultivate a sense of stability regardless of external circumstances. This does not mean we become passive or indifferent to life. On the contrary, it allows us to act with clarity and wisdom, without being clouded by uncontrolled emotions. We can make better decisions, interact more thoughtfully with others, and maintain our mental balance even in challenging moments. Reflecting on our past experiences helps reinforce this understanding. Think of times when you faced intense anger, frustration, or pain. At the moment, it may have felt like it would last forever. But looking back, you can see that the feeling passed, the situation changed, and life moved forward. Nothing, whether joy or sorrow, is permanent. Anger is no different. By reminding ourselves, "This too shall pass," we create a mental anchor. This simple affirmation helps us step back from emotional storms and view them as temporary experiences rather than permanent states. Practically, this approach can be applied in everyday situations. When someone insults us, behaves unfairly, or provokes frustration, we can pause and remind ourselves that the moment is temporary. We can choose not to take things personally, not to react immediately, and instead respond with calm and clarity. This shift in perspective transforms our interactions and relationships. We become less reactive, more patient, and more resilient. By viewing emotions as temporary, we stop being held hostage by them and instead regain control over our responses. Beyond handling anger, embracing impermanence helps us cultivate presence. When we accept that emotions, situations, and even successes or failures are temporary, we are free to focus on what truly matters. We can direct our energy toward actions and thoughts we can control, rather than being consumed by frustration over things outside our influence. This perspective allows us to live more fully, appreciating life as it unfolds rather than resisting it or trying to force it to fit our expectations. In conclusion, anger, frustration, and other intense emotions are natural, but they are temporary. Recognizing this gives us power. By accepting the impermanent nature of our feelings, we detach from them without ignoring them. We step back, breathe, and respond with clarity and calm. Life is ever-changing, and so are our emotions. This awareness allows us to face challenges with resilience, interact with others thoughtfully, and maintain inner peace regardless of external circumstances. Next time you feel anger rising, pause and remind yourself, "This too shall pass." Your emotions are temporary, and you are stronger than any single feeling. By embracing impermanence, you reclaim your peace, cultivate emotional resilience, and live with calm, clarity, and confidence.